Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining this celebration of cultural connections presented by the Food Connection and Kentucky Nutrition Education Program. This session focuses on Hispanic Heritage Month. We are extremely grateful for Kentucky NEP educators Myrna and Jacqui for sharing traditional recipes that they hold close to their hearts with us, as well as relevant cooking tips and nutrition information. Stay tuned as we explore tasty recipes. Additionally, in this session, we hope you will gain some insight into the efforts that the Food Connection is making to connect Kentuckians across the Commonwealth to local foods, Kentucky NEP resources available to make the most of local and traditional heritage foods, understanding of cultural competence and its importance, strategies for and awareness of resources to reach diverse audiences. Let's begin the discussion with the Food Connection and local foods.
The Food Connection serves farmers, food producers, students, and consumers by cultivating creative strategies and partnerships to support a vibrant, healthy, and equitable local food economy. On and off campus, we support innovative and interdisciplinary instruction and research and deliver high-impact services and programs related to local food systems development. We value Kentucky-grown food and farmers, fostering community partnerships, and leveraging research and education as a foundation for exciting events at the 90 and around Kentucky. The Cultivate Kentucky Partnership is a collaborative initiative spearheaded by the Food Connection, aimed at growing our specialty crop sector in Kentucky with a particular emphasis on farm-to-institution supply chains. Our efforts are focused on produce growers and specifically supporting producers' adaptation to rapid changes in produce food safety regulation and auditing. Our partnership is composed of on- and off-campus partners from across the food and farm system. We work together in developing strategic and innovative programming to support the development of wholesale-ready producers in the Commonwealth. Our team works directly with Kentucky farmers and food aggregators and delivers both one-on-one technical assistance, field days, workshops, webinars, and publications. The Kentucky Value Chain Collaborative seeks to build on existing efforts to build a more vibrant and connected local food system in Kentucky. With generous support from the Kentucky Agricultural Development Board, the Food Connection employs Value Chain Coordinators, or VCCs, to support farmers in cultivating meaningful and sustainable markets for their local food products and relationships with scale-appropriate distribution channels. The VCCs serve a number of roles: market matchmaking, technical assistance, relationship building, innovating ideas, resource prospecting, research and assessment to meet farmers where they are and assist them with selling their products and meeting the demand for locally grown food in a coordinated and collaborative way with an emphasis on institutional and food service markets. Local food is fresher, more nutritious, and tastes better because it doesn't have to travel as far, and it is grown for flavor rather than shelf life. Eating local food reduces greenhouse gas emissions because it requires less fossil fuel for transportation. Supporting local food businesses helps strengthen the local economy and keeps the money circulating locally rather than in a large national headquarters. Eating local food builds community by connecting people with food producers at farmers markets, farm stands, and community gardens. Eating local encourages a greater variety of crops and reduces reliance on monoculture, which can harm our soil. Seasonal produce is picked at its peak ripeness, so it's higher in nutrients like vitamins, antioxidants, and folate. Eating seasonally helps you eat a wider variety of foods, which can help you get different vitamins and minerals. Eating seasonally can help reduce the environmental impact of food transportation, as in-season produce can be purchased more locally. It can also be more cost-effective. Buying local produce supports your local economy and farmers. Seasonal produce is often more flavorful than out-of-season produce.
Not all seasonal food is local, but all local food is seasonal. There are several avenues to get connected with local foods in our Kentucky communities. Sometimes you can purchase right off the farm. There are also roadside markets, food hubs, and farmers markets. Many locations even accept EBT. Speaking of EBT, about 12% of the Kentucky population were assisted by SNAP or EBT benefits, what we used to call food stamps, in 2022. Kentucky NEP and Extension seek to help Kentuckians with limited resources make the most of the food they purchase with their SNAP dollars. We want folks to do the best they can with what they have on hand. Within our food systems team, we help to make local food accessible to all by creating and sharing free resources for recipes, gardening, farmers markets, farm to school, and foraging. Let's check out some of these resources. Plan Eat Move is our public interfacing website. In addition to an abundance of resources, there are also recipes. These recipes are dietitian approved and from a variety of our collections, from Cook Wild Kentucky to curriculum related recipes to Plated Up Kentucky Proud recipes and more. Research-backed food preservation resources are available at all 120 county offices. Are you interested in starting to can? Reach out to your local extension office to get started safely. Get connected to your local family and consumer sciences agent for canning resources and pressure canner gauge testing. Extension is also the place for free gardening resources. We have several available resources under Grow Your Own at planeatmove.com, including a variety of growing guides. The Home Vegetable Gardening in Kentucky publication is available online and at extension offices. We at Kentucky NEP continue to make efforts to create increasingly accessible resources. Resources like these bilingual farmers market infographics. They describe using your benefits at the farmers market as well as doubling your dollars when available. We appreciate all of you who are the boots on the ground, reaching and teaching folks from diverse backgrounds using Extension and Kentucky Nutrition Education Program resources. As we provide Extension services, we want to make sure we do so with cultural competency in a cultural responsive nature. To begin this conversation, let's define culture. There are many definitions of culture. Culture consists of everything on a list of topics or categories such as social, organization, religion, or economy. Culture is shared, learned human behavior or a way of life. Our friends at the University of Nebraska Extension define cultural competence as the ability of a person to effectively interact, work, and develop meaningful relationships with people of various cultural backgrounds. Cultural background can include the beliefs, customs, and behaviors of people from various groups. Gaining cultural competence is a lifelong process of increasing self-awareness, developing social skills, and behaviors around diversity, and gaining the ability to advocate for others. It goes beyond tolerance, which implies that one is simply willing to overlook differences. Instead, it includes recognizing and respecting diversity through our words and actions in all contexts. Cultural competence is important for many reasons. Our world is becoming increasingly diverse, and we're experiencing demographic shifts. The United States is becoming more ethnically diverse, with the Hispanic population expected to reach 25% by 2050. By 2043, the U.S. will become a majority-minority nation, requiring the ability to interact effectively across cultures. Increased global interactions and international collaboration make cultural competence essential in many careers. Universities and industries are emphasizing cultural awareness to prepare for the globalized society. Diverse populations means persistent cross-cultural challenges. Despite diversity, issues like discrimination, bias, and inequality remain widespread. with hate crimes and microaggressions negatively impacting individuals and communities. Discrimination harms victims in various ways, including emotional well-being and performance. Bias also affects those who hold prejudices, increasing stress and creating hostile environments for all. Let us move towards cultural responsiveness. Cultural competence is fundamental to providing an accessible and engaging learning environment for all students and is essential for reaching a wider audience. Extension educators should actively design programs that address and resonate with diverse audiences to maintain the relevance and impact of Extension services. Let's consider these tips for building cultural competence. Recognize that it's a continuous process. Developing cultural competence is ongoing, not a final destination. It requires regular improvement through learning and self-awareness. Increase your cultural knowledge. Learn about the practices, values, and beliefs of other cultures, including historical context and current events that impact diverse groups, e.g., refugees and migrants. Always self-reflect and assess. Reflect on your biases. Acknowledging personal biases helps in reducing prejudice and fostering better interactions with people from different backgrounds. Go beyond tolerance. Move beyond tolerance of differences. Actively appreciate, affirm, and include diverse cultural perspectives through open-minded engagement. Participate in active listening. Focus on understanding both the content and emotions in conversations with individuals from different cultures, minimizing distractions and asking thoughtful questions. Practice empathy. Seek to understand others' perspectives without necessarily agreeing with them. Empathy helps us build meaningful connections. Focus on effective engagement. Create reciprocal learning experiences by focusing on understanding cultural practices rather than judging individuals. As we develop our cultural competency, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with a sense of curiosity and an open mind and belly. National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated from September 15th through October 15th. The 2024 theme is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. National Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans with ancestors from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South Americas. This was established as a week in 1968 and expanded to a month in 1988. Key days in this month-long celebration include September 15th, marking an independence for several Latin American countries, and Dia de la Raza on October 9th. We recognize and celebrate the diversity of Hispanic, Latin identities, including terms like Latina, Latinx, Chicano, and Afro-Latino, among others. As we embark on this celebration, think about using resources within the SNAP-Ed Toolkit to enhance your program and build its cultural relevance. Resources like those from the Old Ways Heritage Diet series, the Latin American diet information is especially relevant and allows us to creatively and deliciously celebrate this food culture, this Hispanic Heritage Month, and beyond. The Latin American Heritage Diet Pyramid incorporates the region's diverse foods, culinary traditions, and practicalities, reflecting the cultural interplay in border regions. Staples like potatoes, beans, corn, avocados, tortillas, and even chocolate are integral. This balance between taste and nutrition is a defining feature of the Latin American diet pyramid. Dive into the Latin American Heritage Diet this Hispanic Heritage Month with the assistance of this menu suggestion calendar, featured at oldwayspt.org. Another Old Ways resource to mention is their produce tip profiles. They have several in their resource library featuring several produce that are grown and readily available in Kentucky, as well as other heritage diet related foods. Another fun resource to use in your celebrations of heritage and local foods are these adorable food and gardening coloring sheets from our friends at Oregon State University. Let us disperse our abundance of Extension and Kentucky Nutrition Education Program resources thoughtfully and intentionally. Let's quickly review some best practice strategies for engaging bilingual and diverse audiences. Offer authentic experiences. Deliver programming in languages comfortable for families, encouraging home language use. Use bilingual materials when available. Use culturally relevant content. Link programs to relatable topics like cooking or gardening. Encourage family participation. Design activities for both adults and children to engage the family together. Be culturally aware and encourage cultural awareness among staff and volunteers. Hire or encourage bilingual staff and volunteers who can relate to the audience. Use positive role models. Involve community voices through those volunteers. Provide sensory experiences. Use visuals, props, and glossaries. Use bilingual tools. Incorporate teaching methods like sheltered instruction. Ensure accessibility. Remove barriers like fees and transportation issues. If you need to and you can, do programs in folks' home communities. Build community partnerships to make these programs happen. Engage in non-traditional spaces. Partner with community centers, libraries, and faith organizations. Thanks for joining this celebration of cultural connections, Hispanic Heritage Month overview. We hope that this discussion sparked some new ideas and provided some helpful resources for reaching and teaching diverse audiences creatively. Stay tuned in for the recipe demonstrations from Jacqui and Myrna.
I am the NEP Program Assistant Senior for Fayette County Extension Office. And today we are going to make pollo saltado, which is a traditional Peruvian dish you can do with chicken or beef, and we're going to do it with chicken. Pollo means chicken. So let's get started. First, I'm going to start peeling the potatoes. We're going to have about two to three potatoes. You want it to about a pound. If you don't have potatoes, you can always use like frozen fries. Let's start peeling. I always peel it away from me, so we just start going. And turn as we go. Oops. My grandmother used to make me do these. So, learned how to do them when I was about 6, so she passed away. 10 years ago. Okay. Pretty much all of it's gone. Get my discard bowl. Now when you chop it, you can do one of two ways. You hold the knife. I always wrap my finger, thumb over here. I always use the sharpest part. It's going to be in the middle, so I always do that. But what I tend to do is I do my claw, push the pointy tip down, and then I have a flat surface, so it'll make it easier and it won't slide around. And then I'll just slice it. Keep slicing into strips, French fries. There you go. You can leave them this long, or I tend to cut them in half. That's just me. And they don't have to be uniform. That's the beauty of cooking. I'm going to take this little brown part off. That's just me. And always remember, a sharp knife is a safe knife. Okay, there we go. Now, if you're gonna bake these, I would toss them in a little bit of oil. You can add a little bit of salt on there, and I usually bake them at 400. So I've chopped my potatoes. I'm gonna put them in this bowl so we can toss them. You wanna do about a tablespoon of oil. There you go. And since this is like coarse salt, I'm just gonna sprinkle a little. And then you just toss them one of two ways. You can do it this way, or you can get in there and get your fingers dirty, which is always fun. So there you go. So we have that, and it's ready to go. And now I'm gonna put it, I use parchment paper, easier for cleanup. But if you don't have parchment paper, I would spray it maybe with some non-stick cooking spray a little bit before. And you want to spread them out on a single layer and have enough room for all of them so the air can circulate and cook it on all sides. There you go. Or slice up our chicken breast. I'm going to set you here. I'm going to trim the fat, usually just a little. There. This piece was already done. If you have tenders, you can use your tenders and just slice them. I tend to, instead of 2-inch strips, I tend to just cut it in half, do more of a bite size. If I'm cooking with steak, if I'm making it with the lomo saltado, then I'll do the strips. But usually, this is about as long as I want them. A little bit here. Oops. More of the fat. Put them in this bowl, because then I'm going to toss them with my seasonings. So. Okay. The beauty of this recipe is it doesn't have to be uniform slices. You just cut however comes out. It's my grandmother who used to do the chicken chopping, not me.
It's nice that different people can do different parts of the dish.
Yes. This is something like my grandmother always believed it was important to show the kids how to cook. She would, like the potatoes, I would help her peeling the potatoes, and then we'd bake them or fry them, depending. This one's going to be a little thick, so I'm going to cut it. But I always thought that, and she always said, food brings people together. Doesn't matter if you speak English, Spanish, wherever, but food brings people together, and that's a common thing, but only if it's good food. Yeah, she was funny. She would tell me she would mostly say only Peruvian food, but there we go. And our last one. Okay, so now we're ready. I've got all my pieces here. And we will start by adding our spices. Add the seasonings. So we're going to use half a teaspoon of ground cumin. Sprinkle it over. I want to get it all out. And half a teaspoon of paprika. Get that one all out. And then we toss. And get in there. And you just want to toss it just so they get coated with the spices. Okay. There you have it. Now we're going to mince the garlic cloves. I've got 2 cloves. What I like to do first is I mash it down. Easier to peel sometimes. There we go. There you go. Get the little tail end of it off. Same thing with this little one. Back of the knife, blade out, palms up. I don't know about you, but I love the smell of garlic. Okay, get that little, you're gonna mince the garlic, okay? And by mincing, we're gonna cut it really small. Tiny, tiny pieces. So I just slice them, turn, and keep slicing. Once I get them to a reasonable size, I just keep the pointy tip down, and then I just scoot them together. I love garlic, but a lot of people don't, so I try to mince it as small as I can get. There we go. One more, and that should do it. If you don't have these or you don't like to chop it, you can find them already minced at the grocery store. I tend to do that too because sometimes I like to cheat. Okay, and there you go. Minced garlic. I'm going to put that right here. Now we're going to move on to the onion. So red onion, here's what I do. I'll cut the tops off. And that way I'll do this. And I'll cut through the root, okay? And usually when I cut through the root, and I'll show you why here in a second. So cut down. To make this, you want strips of the onion to make the saltado. You don't want it chopped. Okay. So we peel the first layer of the skin off. You can use red onion is preferable to use red onion, but you can use, if you don't have it, you could use a white onion. It just won't be as colorful, but you can use whatever you have on hand. But the red onion I find to have more of a robust flavor. Okay, so I keep that and I keep the root on because I'll show you. Is I'll cut it, I'll follow the grooves of the onion to make the strips. And I don't cut all the way, I just cut to the root. I don't cut through the root. So, I'll do this. so it looks like a fan. See? Okay? Then I'll cut the root off. And then I'll have my strips. See? You'll have to peel them apart, but you'll have like strips already done. That's the fastest way, easiest way to do it. There you go, and you can trim. There you go. See? You'll have strips. Another way you can slice, keep the root intact, is you just turn it. Instead of doing it this way, you just turn it to the side and you just go. It's just a preference on how you want to slice it. There you go. Then you have your slices there too, see? But you have to separate them either way. There you go. Now we're gonna seed our tomatoes. Use a little paring knife. These are good tomatoes. They're from local. Or if you've got a garden, use your tomatoes from your garden. So I tend to, oh, I do that. Let's see them both. And our last tomato. There we go. Okay. Now usually I just cut them, cut them in quarters. This one doesn't have it. So I'll cut them in quarters first. I'll show you what I mean when we seed them. Okay, I'll show you what I usually do. Some people will just dig you right in there and pull this part out. I'll just get like a paring knife, cut it out that way. And then we can leave it like this, or I'll cut it again, depending on how thick the tomato is. And the reason why we seed it is because when you're cooking, the seeds will stick up and it'll just not, the presentation at the end, you're gonna love it. You'll understand why if we had seeds in it. Now we're gonna cook our chicken. We're gonna turn it to high. We're gonna heat 2 tablespoons of oil. You want to get the oil hot. And I just swirl it around, let it get hot for a minute. If you have an electric stove, put it on medium-high. Okay. Yep. Give that a little time to heat up. See it bubbling. Okay. It's hot. It's hot already. Oh, yep. Okay. I'm gonna turn it down a little. It's starting to sizzle. It's starting to pop. Ooh, it's gonna pop on me. Now we're gonna add our chicken. Okay, our oil's ready. So, I'm gonna add, you wanna do a single layer of the chicken, and you're gonna cook it 4 minutes per side. 4 minutes, and then we'll flip it over. Now, all done, we're gonna flip it over. We flip them over, and it's important when you do this, we'll do it in batches. Sticks a little, it's okay. Now we give that a couple minutes. Okay, so our chicken's done. I'm gonna leave this little piece right there because it needs a little bit longer because it was thick. But I'm gonna take them out, put them on a plate with paper towel. And it's okay if you have some of the pieces that are on there. Pieces. That one I'm giving it a little more. Now we do our second batch. And we do this just because we don't want our chicken to be crowded. You want it to cook on all sides. So that's why it's important to do it in batches. Trying to find a space. Okay. Okay, our chicken's cooked. Now we move on. I'm just gonna squirt a little bit more of the oil on here. This goes fast because you just want the tomato and the onions just to cook lightly, just bait like saute. So I add the garlic, the onions. I'm gonna give that a quick stir. You're gonna cook all this for 3 minutes. We add the tomatoes. And you want to stir it to keep the onions from sticking. And also you want to get the brown juice at the bottom. So this is done. We're gonna now we add vinegar. I use apple cider vinegar. You can use any vinegar. Just try not to use the balsamic vinegar because then that'll turn it sweet. We add tablespoons of that and soy sauce. And you just stir all that in for a minute. Turn off the heat, and now we're going to add the french fries. I'm going to show you two different things that we've done. So here's our oven baked fries. Here is our french fries. If you use them in an air fryer, it'll get evenly brown, or you can use the frozen french fries if you've got those. Those do better baking. So there's the difference. Just wanted you to see that. Now we add the fries, and add them both. And then we toss it. You just mix it all up. Just to get that going. we add our cooked chicken. I do it a little at a time. And all this is with the heat turned off because your pan and your tomato and your onions are hot, hot, hot. And just toss. Okay. Now it comes to plating. So what I've done also with the rice, I've gone ahead, made a little ramekin bowl, put some cilantro on top, and then we just plate it out. Put some good onions and potatoes. There you go, and wait, gotta get my edges clean. So my little edges, just a little. And there you go, pollo saltado.
Welcome everybody. I'm Myrna Vasquez. I'm from the Callaway County Nutrition Education Program, and I'm here today to talk to you about plantains. Plantains are something that nowadays you could find at your local store, at your local grocery store, and some people are wondering what those vegetables are. So today I'm going to show you how to select them, how to slice them, and then how to cook them in several ways. And hopefully you'll be able to enjoy them as a side dish with your meals. So plantains are grown in the Caribbean. It has to be grown in warm weather. So they get shipped to the States, and different countries will prepare them in different ways, and they have different names for each way that they prepare it. But in Puerto Rico, plantains are a staple for the meals because it's a plant that is to grow easily in your yard, and select them when they're ready to be harvested, and you can cook it fresh go from the plant to your kitchen to your table right away. So in the Caribbean, they're used to having and seeing plantains for the meals on a regular basis. So they have different dishes to prepare with the plantains, but I will just showcase just a simple way that you could add a little something special to your meal. So we're talking today about plantains because we would like to showcase that there are other produce available for you to prepare at home, but also that there are some snacks available which contains less sodium. All right, so I've been very fortunate to have traveled within the States and have been able to enjoy plantains over the years. But several years ago, I was not able to find plantains to be accessible. It used to be that my mom had to prepare a box for me of goodies from Puerto Rico and ship them to where I was located. But nowadays, I'm fortunate that the local grocery store will provide those foods. They will have the international aisle, and on the produce section, they will have also fruits and vegetables from other places so we can enjoy. And I'm glad to see that and share my experience with cooking with plantains. So today I want to talk to you about another way to find plantains. Is also already prepared in the form of chips, and I'd like to showcase that this plantain chip contains low sodium compared to other types of chips, that the ingredients list will be a little bit extensive. On this one, it's just the plantains, the method of cooking, which is oil, and a little bit of salt. So it's just basic three things, and that's it. Compared to other chips, will have a larger area of ingredients. So the sodium for this one is just 50 milligrams compared to other sodiums that might have 250 milligrams just for 1 ounce of serving. So this is a good way to enjoy something crunchy, but at the same time not consuming too much of that sodium. Americans should be consuming 1.5 teaspoons of salt. That's what the average American will consume, and you only need 1/4 of a teaspoon daily. So the difference is significant. For adults and children, 1 teaspoon of salt is the recommended. So we do consume a little too much of sodium on our daily life. So we need to find ways to diminish that. And one way is those chips. Chips will contain a high level, but if you don't read the nutrition facts label, then you cannot tell whether that's the case. So be mindful of turning your chips, the bag of chips, and read that if that's a concern for you in terms of sodium content. Yeah, so you can prepare your own chips at home just with a simple, you only need a pot, some oil, and a ladle or a tool that I'm going to showcase how to use, and a knife. And you can prepare this at home for a small group of people. Now, if it's a larger group of people, then it's going to be, going to take a little bit more. But it's easy to prepare. Just be mindful you're going to be using oil, so be safe in the kitchen. Be aware that you have a pot of oil, a pot with oil, and you don't want to leave that unattended. So safety first. And then on your kitchen area, you need a cutting board, the knife, and pay attention to the oil as it heats up. Think about preparing French fries. When you place the oil, you want that oil to be running a little bit. And once I show you how to make the cuts, do not place all of the chips, all of the plantains at once. Do one at a time first, just to gauge the level of heat of that oil. So let me show you how you select plantains when you go to the store. Plantains, they should be dark green when you harvest them, but once it gets to the States, that plantain has traveled from all the way from Guatemala. Usually that's the sticker that you will find on the plantain. So time has passed from the moment that they get picked and then placed in those boxes and then shipped to the States. So usually you will not find them on that dark green, but if you do find them on a very dark green, go ahead and purchase them, because that's the best way to, the best expense that you're gonna make is buying it when it's green. Because plantains, you could cook them as it ripens, they change, and you could still enjoy them once it's ripened. But when it's green, in Puerto Rico, we call them tostones. We're gonna prepare tostones when they are green. Now, when they're ripe like this, then they're called amarillos, and they're sweeter. So in this case here, you see that if you bought them this dark green, a week could go by and they still be good to cook. So don't worry if they get to this, the dark spots, that means they're getting sweeter. So that's another way to consume the plantains. So because they get shipped to the States, the plantains, they're not gonna change in the natural way. Like if you had them at home sitting in your countertop, you will have that green plantain, and then time will pass and it will change to the beautiful yellow and dark spots like this one. Here in the States, sometimes those plantains are in the refrigerated area or transported in a refrigerated truck. So that process, natural process, has stopped or kind of slows down. But on the inside, that plantain is still ripening. So it used to, at home, when I'm at home in Puerto Rico visiting, if you could touch the plantain, the skin of the plantain, and tell whether it's going to be good for to make a tostón or an amarillo. An amarillo means yellow. So those yellow ones are going to be sweeter compared to the green ones, to the tostones. So now here in the States, I have to touch the skin of the plantain to tell whether it's going to be good for either one. So a good way is just to press it just a little bit. If it's hard, then it most likely be good to make a tostón. If it's soft, like this one, then it means that it's going to be ripened and be able to consume it, eat it as a sweet dish instead of a salty, crunchy dish. But sometimes they're in the middle there. You don't know whether it's going to be good for one dish or another. You just have to pry it open, and then you could tell on the inside. Once you look on the inside, you could see a glossy, the shine to the plantain, and it might means that it's sweeter. So it could be more on that side for the amarillos. If you see that there's a glossy look to it, it might be that it's in the ripe stage. And if you see that it doesn't have that glossy, that is a matte look to it, then it might means that it's good for the tostones. So that's, I try to look at it. I try to touch the skin, the outside of the plantain. But once I open it, that's gonna determine more how I'm gonna do the slices of it. Because for the tostones, you're gonna do a chunky cut to it. If it's the ripened plantains, then you wanna cut it in an angle. So you will see that in a few minutes. So when I tell people about plantains and they say that they have seen them at the store, and I ask them if I just showcase them something like this, they will think it's a not good banana. But here's what a banana looks like. It's a whole lot smaller than the plantain, and the color of it will be maintained throughout. It will be more yellow, more constant yellow, but the plantain will ripen and get those dark spots. So they look similar. They're in the same family. They're cousins, but they're not the same. So the bananas you could eat right away. They're ready to go. It's a good snack. You don't need any packaging. It has its own package. But the plantains, it's a fruit, but it's considered, or we treat it like a vegetable. And it's a starch vegetable. So you have to be careful if you need to be aware of starches, consuming too much starch. So once it's on a green stage, it's a starch, okay? And then it ripens up. So they look alike, like a banana. They're in the same family, but they're not the same. You have to cook the plantains. They're not ready to eat like the bananas. All right, I'm gonna showcase the cut for making plátanos. And in this case, I'm selecting one that still has the green. I could feel it that it's hard, the skin of it, but I'm gonna open it and see whether it's shiny, has a glossy, or it's a matte look to it. So let's go over and see. So for this one, I just wanna make 2 cuts at the end of the plátano. Put that to the side, and then I'm gonna pry it. But in order to pry this, I'm gonna make some slits to the skin. Go around the curve of the plantain. Do like 3, and that's it. If you find this plantain to be, green, that skin is gonna be very hard. And what I have found is that using a can opener that looks like this, it helps me pry the skin from the plátano, from the plantain. My dad has a wooden tool. He has form, and it forms to his hand. So he has work on that piece of wood that he could use to pry. I didn't have one, but then I figured that this will do the trick. And you're just gonna use that end, the pointy, and press down where you did the slit, and you're gonna bring that skin up. And then you could go around and push it, and it will open it up for you. So once you pry it, then that skin will come loose. Now if it's the very green one, it's gonna be kind of hard. Once it starts to ripen the skin, then it might be softer for you to manipulate and remove that skin. So this is, with 3 slits, you get to expose the plantain. Now this one doesn't look too glossy, so I think it's gonna be good for making the plantains, the smashed plantains that we call plátanos. And if it had that glossy, I would have done a different cut. So for this case, just remove the skin to the side. You could use it on your compost later on. And now the plantain is there exposed. Now how to cut it? And something to keep in mind, you're gonna have some residue in your hands. If it's the green plantain, it might leave some of the sap in your hand, just like if you were touching newspaper, you will have some darkness on the tips, but nothing to worry about. Just make sure you have a brush, a nail brush, and then rub that as soon as you're working with the plantains. If you were doing a lot of plantains, then I recommend that you have newspaper, so you could lay all your skins, and that way you could transport that to the outside of the house and you don't get that sap in your hands. So that's a little tip there, that because in Puerto Rico we do them so often, we get to leave that, have that residue in our fingertips. But here I have not found that I get that too often if I'm just gonna do 1 or 2 at a time. So once you have the plantain exposed, since I'm gonna make them as plátanos, as tostones, then I'm gonna do some chunks, cut chunks, just like 1 inch thickness. And I'll go all around it on that plátano. And I have, this one gave me 7 pieces. Once I have those pieces, then I'm going to place them in the oil. So I have filled just halfway of this pot with oil, and I'm gonna let it heat up just like if I was doing French fries. I have it, medium high will be a good to start. You don't want it to get too hot, because once you place that tostón, that chunk, then the outside will cook faster, and then you don't have the center, cooking at the same time. So you don't want it to be too hot that you're gonna burn it right away, but you don't want it either too low. So medium high is a good temperature. All right. So I could tell the oil is there heating up. I'm just gonna throw 1. I usually take the corners since they're smaller, just to test how it rolls that oil. So make sure you have a flooded spoon, and you could place it there. Well, it's rolling. The oil is rolling, so it looks good. I'm gonna bring the other ones. Since I'm used to preparing this, you could also, very carefully, you could place them from the edge of the pot and drop them. But we are here to safety. We want to make sure that you do it carefully. So use a slotted spoon. I'm going to let those pieces of plátanos cook for a little bit just to get golden on the outside. They're not gonna cook all the way through because we have another step in order to make the tostones. So this is the first fry of the tostones. There's still another second time that we have to enter them into the oil. So we're gonna wait for them. They have been in the oil for several minutes and they are now golden, so I'm gonna remove them from the oil. I'm going to remove the pot from the stove for a little bit because I don't want that to get too hot. So now I have my chunks of plátanos. They have a color like the amarillos, the yellow type, but I know that they're going to do well as a tostón. So for the next step, and you have to be careful because they're hot, I'm going to put it to the side, and then with the fork I'm going to remove them one by one, and I'm going to show you how to make the splat. So this is the most important part of making tostones. You want to make sure that you have something flat in order to smash them. So on another section of your cutting board, you could do this, or you could have a tool like this, but you don't need this to do this. But this will give you another level in order to make this smash and create the tostón. But I'm going to show you first with the cup so you know that you don't need nothing fancy. So a regular cup with a nice large area on the bottom that you could use to splat. So this is going to be hot. This is going to stick to the bottom of the cup, so you will have to remove it afterwards. So this is all you have to do in order to create that tostón, the bottom of the cup. And now you have a wonderful, beautiful tostón. Now what happens when we splat it is that it exposes the uncooked internal area of the plantain. So this has to go back to the oil in order for those areas to be cooked. And it will create on the edges the crunchy side of the plantain. So that's gonna make you enjoy that texture of the very uneven ridges of the plantain. So I'm just gonna set them aside here. So all the cubes of the plantains have been smashed and they're ready to go back to the second frying. Now for this time, I don't want to place all of them at the same time in the pot because there's not enough space. I don't want them to overlap because I would like to move them with my fork and turn them around so they're cooked from each side. So I'm just going to take a few. I usually take them by hand and throw them in the oil. I place the pot back on the stove. And I'm gonna let those areas then cook a little bit more. But once they've been on the oil cooking for a few minutes, you wanna gauge how hot is the oil. If you think that it's turning darker a little faster, then just tweak that the temperature, lower it a little bit because you don't want them too dark. The plantain for the tostones should be a darker yellow, but if it turns a little darker, it might mean that it's in the ripened side. But I think they're gonna taste more from like a tostón. But just keep that in mind. Play with the temperature on your stove and keep that, be mindful of how hot is that oil because you don't want to burn them. But they need to be turned. You can either use your fork and turn them around. And then once that they are ready, remove them into a platter. I will place a towel in that plate so it could absorb any excess oil. You don't want to eat a plantain that is just too oily. It's best if it could be kind of dry from the plantain. So now I want to show you how to prepare a ripened plantain. The ripened plantain is going to be softer on the outside. It will show more of the darkness on the skin of the plantain. You still have to open it the same way like the green plantain. So do your cuts on the end first. That makes it easier to open it up. Put that on the side. Make the 3 cuts along the plantain. In this case, the skin is going to be softer, so you're not going to need the tool. You could just pinch the edge. The skin is going to be thinner than the green plantain, so it makes it easier. Now this one, you could tell there's a little glossy and ripeness along the plantain. So this one tells me it's going to be a good one for a sweet plantain, or amarillos that we call it. Now for this one, we're not going to do the chunk cutting because you're not going to fry it twice. This one, you could be fancy and do a diagonal cut, or a way that I like to prepare them is to just cut them like 3 sections, and I'm going to showcase both cuts on this one. You could do, I'm going to do one here as an example. The first cut is in a diagonal, so take advantage. The plantain is not square. We could remove this out of the side, we don't need that. But you're going to cut in an angle, and you're going to make them thinner because they're not going to be dipped in the oil twice. So cut them, and they're going to be more of a larger area. So you're exposing more of the internal of the plantain, so that when it goes into the oil, it will cook thoroughly the inside. So put them on the side, cut in diagonal, and you could do that all along the plantain, and it will have a nice finish once they're cooked. Nice presentation on your platter. Now another way that I like to cut this is in 3 sections for that one plantain, and go all the way lengthwise. Now this one you have to be careful, you don't want to slide, but I was able to cut them lengthwise. They still kind of thin, so they will be able to cook in the oil on the inside. So you have 2 types of finish for this one. It could be a little rectangular shape, or the kind of the oval shape. Now we're going to go back to the oil. Make sure that it's medium high, and we're going to put one in the oil just to check the heat. And it looks good to incorporate the other ones. So you could use the spoon, or carefully from the side, you could let them go in. All right, so I'm gonna now complete the frying with the larger yellow amarillos plantains. Let them cook while I remove the other ones and place them in the platter. Another way to consume plantains, it will be to just boil it. All this requires is to have a green skin plantain, that the skin is hard to the touch, and we're gonna score it. Do the 3 scores around the plantain. The skin will be a little harder. Use your can opener and pry it. Just pull it. If there are any pieces that get stuck, then you could use the knife to remove it. So once the plantain is exposed, just cut it in small sections, like 1 inch or 1/2 inch. And then place them in a pot with boiling water. Plantains have been cooking in that boiling water for a little while, and you just want to make sure that once you can remove them once they're soft to the touch of the fork. They'll be breaking, and that will tell you that they are cooked on the inside. Now you remove this from the water, and you could eat it just like that, as a side dish, just like you would do a potato. Or you could add this to a soup. You could add them when they're not cooked, add them to the soup, and they will cook along with your soup ingredients, with your vegetables. It will be good in a chicken soup. It will be a great addition to add this, and it will just resemble a potato. So today you have learned several ways to prepare plantains, which are accessible and available at your grocery store. I hope you get to enjoy and prepare this at home, and prepare a platter like this of the different cuts and stages of the plantain. I hope you have enjoyed learning today about plantains, how to select them at your grocery store, and the different ways to cut them and fry them, and the one without the frying that is a good way to use in soups. Plantains are available at your grocery store, and I hope you get to integrate them in your daily routine of cooking at home, because they are a good source of potassium, magnesium, and vitamins. I hope you give it a try as we celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you.
Celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month by visiting your local Hispanic Latino grocery store. International Hispanic Latin grocery stores are a great place to find fresh, new flavors, okay? I'm here at one of the local stores in my town of Glasgow, in my home community of Barron County. They have an abundance of fresh produce featuring flavors of the Caribbean and Central and South America. Many, just like any other grocery store, accept EBT benefits. Be inspired this Hispanic Heritage Month to get out and support a small business in your community, and to find fresh new flavors with a visit to an international grocery store in your neighborhood. Thanks for celebrating cultural connections with us.